Respected Chairperson of this session, Dr. Sharma sir, the renowned academician and professor from Allahabad, the Head of Department, Dr. Nuptan Kotak Madam, the novelist, Dr. Professor Vikas Sharma, and the President of All India Teachers Conference, AESI, Dr. Yadav sir, with the kind permission of the organizers and the chairperson, I begin my presentation. Actually, the topic is today the Indian values, culture and tradition in the novels of Vikas Sharma. Dr. Vikas Sharma happens to have a very rich family tradition in the sense that his father is a professor of Hindi and he's a very renowned literary figure. His elder brother is a renowned Hindi poet Kumar Vishwas, and he himself is a novelist and a professor. So I think it is the cultural heritage, it is the legacy that he owns. I have tried to cover all the 11 novels written by him, but let us see if we can do justice in a short span of 40 minutes. Indian values, culture and tradition in transformation in the novels of Vikas Sharma, as we say, there are certain criteria should be there. What actually are the criteria which can decide whether there is an Indianness or Indian values or culture and tradition in the work of any novelist or a writer. So certain basic principles can be laid down and there are certain special characteristics. I try to make a list of them, exhaustive list of them, and try to see that if all those ingredients are found in the novels of Vikas Sharma, certain characteristics can be like the basic principles. If a spiritual values, for example, there is a redemption plays a crucial role in Indian spirituality, and that is what we find. And transformation, a process of transformation is there in the novels of Vikas Sharma. Then connection with the deities and the deeper meaning of faith also highlights the essence of Indian beliefs. There are other cultural significance where Indian traditions are marked by rituals such as puja, and which are fundamental in connecting individuals with their spiritual roots. The narratives that he has written also reflect how cultural practices shape personal transformation. So the worship, the cultural practices, the puja and the spiritualism, the religious elements and the historical connections, the cultural legacies, and also the education and the knowledge of IKs, all such things. In fact, what we observed is that the novels written by Vikas Sharma are 100% Indian, and they have Indianness in all kinds of perspectives, as we say. So only the language is English, everything else you can say is Indian, typically Indian. Even the English language is also Indian at times, which is general Indian English, because he writes for the Indian audience. And there are transformation stories also. The story of Revati becoming Chakreshwari Ma illustrates personal change through divine connection and cultural sensitivity. These narratives serve as a means to convey moral and ethical lessons inherent in Indian tradition. They also encourage the exploration of personal transformation through cultural practices, community rituals, and spiritual engagements. And there are also discussions around the relevance of traditional values in modern context, bringing the gap between past ideals and contemporary lives. So there are debates and discussions also in his novels about these aspects. Coming in traditional, there are certain criteria. What are the key characteristics of Indian values? Indian values empathize. There is a emphasis, family, respect for elders and community. This feature you will find in almost all the 11 novels. And they are also deeply rooted in religious and cultural traditions, and they influence daily life. This is what the feature is consistently available in all his novels. I'll be giving you the textual citations and examples from each and every novel. And there is the importance of values in society. Vikas Sharma has tried to uphold the Indian values and Indian ethics and ethos. For example, honesty, integrity, humility, they all play a vital role. For example, in the novel IAS Today, he has tried to maintain this, he has tried to raise this aspect of honesty and integrity. Then there is the importance of values in society in the sense that individual behavior and societal norms, sometimes there is a clash, sometimes there is a harmony, and sometimes, they foster a sense of unity and belonging within the communities. Tradition and culture shape the development of these values over time. As far as cultural practices are concerned, cultural practices reflect the historical and social context, also the religious ones. They manifest in festivals, rituals, and daily customs that foster community spirit. There's a depiction of such religious festivals and festivities in all the novels. Traditions often carry moral teachings or social messages. Now, another example of cultural practices is festivals like Diwali and Holi. They celebrate the triumph of good over evil. Rituals such as weddings and religious ceremonies symbolize respect for cultural heritage. Art forms like dance and music express cultural identity and values. So these are, the novels are completely replete with this kind of Indianness. And also another aspect, the role of sanskaras. These are certain classification ingredients that we can. Sanskars are rites of passage marking significant life transitions in Indian culture. They aim to purify the individual and instill moral and ethical values. Each sanskara is performed according to prescribed rituals and customs. They also involve family gatherings to reinforce community bonds. As I discuss the novels and more, as we delve deeper into the novels, we'll see that how these rituals and family gathering play a vital role in his novels. The rituals can vary significantly across different regions. Then there is also the connection. He has established a connection between the religion and values. He has talked about Hindu-Muslim unity and also the cultural diversity, which is a blessing in disguise as well, because there are advantages of cultural diversity. Major religion in India like Hinduism, Buddhism and Islam, they have all been discussed in his novels. Religious teachings can also emphasize virtues like compassion, patience and charity. And another aspect that he has tried to, it seems that he has perfectly designed, he has perfectly manipulated his themes, he has perfectly crafted, that every aspect of Indian culture and Indianness should enter into his novels. Community engagement and service are encouraged through the religious practices. Moreover, Hindu texts like the Bhagavad Gita provide ethical guidance in life. One particular novel, Ashes and Fire, as you can say, is based on the influences of the Bhagavad Gita. Almost on every character, the protagonist and every character, as you can say. Festivals which have religious significance and they talk about the values. Places of worship and what are the importance of temples and Mahalakshmi temples and how they contribute to the places of worship. They act as a centers for social and cultural gatherings. Modernization, he talks about urbanization, modernization and Western culture, but that too has been compared and a parallel has been drawn with the Indian scenes, Indian setting and Indian culture. So there has been a continuously a kind of comparison between the Western and the Eastern at times, showing the pros and cons of both the things. Young generations also adopt or abandon these traditional values and how they are finally, reconcile themselves to these family values. Balancing tradition and change. His novels try to establish a kind of balance. Educational and community initiatives promote understanding of cultural heritage. And there's a dialogue between generations as the generation gap begins to arise. In IS today, the father and the son, and about the various family, because the kind of economic and financial restraints and trying to prepare for IS examination, what difficulties are encountered. So dialogue between generations can help preserve while enhancing change. So if we first of all begin with in detail this particular novel 498 Fears and Dreams, Identity and Culture and Values, and I quickly go through all the 11 novels in short and try to sum up that what exactly is there. Themes of Indian identity and culture are found in 498 in the sense that there is a interplay between tradition and modernity. The novel explores the balance between traditional and modern values and how the characters try to navigate through their identities, especially in a rapidly changing society. It also highlights the family bonds and expectations that arise from cultural heritage. The characters' experiences reflect the broader societal shifts occurring in contemporary India, emphasizing the need for adaptation while preserving core values. Family relationships are central, and the characters reflect on their duties towards and the expectations which have been placed upon them. Now, familial bonds are also found. For example, marriage as a union between the families rather than just individuals is emphasized. It is the marriage of the two families rather than two individuals.
and the daughter-in-law also embodies the traditional norms of the family. Social issues that have been addressed in the novel are: the narrative deals with the social issues, which are the dowry system, the evils of dowry, Section 498, which talks about the dowry harassment, and serves as a critical backdrop, and the legal and social ramifications. This particular novel also reflects the legal knowledge of the author. And recently we come to know that because of lot of abuse of 498A and various observations coming before the Honorable Supreme Court, and also the endeavors of the writers like Vikas Sharma, now 498A almost has been abolished, or has been diluted, it has been softened, and the law has changed almost. Now we have that the IPC has been replaced by the another VNS, and we can say, so the credit also goes to the writers like Vikas Sharma, that they have brought about such transformation and great metamorphic change, because 498A was being heavily abused, and this is what he has raised the concern in his novels. Then economic challenge and societal expectations have also been middle class expectations, and Jatin's struggle with his wife Tanvi, and material aspirations and the financial pressures faced by the young couples in India have all been highlighted in this novel. This also shows how personal relationships are influenced. And next, if we say the cultural practices and traditions have also been discussed in this 498A novel. For example, also been discussed in this 498A novel. For example, Jay's commitment to contributing positively to his community also highlights, social upliftment and the moral imperatives which are there in the Indian culture. And then importance of cooking and household, this management. This feature has almost been discussed in all of his novels. For example, the novel also emphasizes the traditional Indian value of respecting elders. Respect for elders, I found this feature almost in all the novels. The character Tanvi's expectation to fulfill these roles despite her modern aspirations reflect the ongoing tension between traditional duties. And then the traditional practices such as cooking and managing a household are also very integral to his novels. Sacrifice and duty in family relationships. For example, family sacrifices are also there in IS today, 498A, and Ashes and Fire. We can see the value and significance of these duties and sacrifices. Hence, internal conflict regarding Tanvi's material aspirations illustrates the struggle between individual desires and traditional values of responsibility and frugality. The narrative also critiques the societal ethos that gives priority to the reputation over justice. Reputation is more important than the justice or injustice, whatever. Sometimes we compromise. We reconcile with the peace rather than the fighting. Rather than winning and achieving the justice, is better to sacrifice. It's better to compromise for the sake of the peace and for the family values. And then cultural heritage and moral lessons have also been. So Indian values through the characters have been perfectly depicted, and the protagonist, who is Jay, his journey towards understanding and preserving Indian culture heritage also reflects a lot. I quickly go through all the novels, giving almost each 1 minute or 2 minutes to each novel, and may give and will be, if possible, will be able to give you the citations, textual illustrations from his novels. For example, in 498A, Indian scenes, Indian setting, Indian events are very much one. Such sentences: since last 30 years, the parents of Indian bridegrooms have stopped expecting any dowry, love and respect from the brides as they are scared of 498A. This shows the agony, this shows the pain, this shows the suffering of all those abused families who have suffered on this. Indian setting is also there. For example, Jay in 498. Jay's experiences in the United States, compared with his opinions about Indian living, they draw this attention to this kind of discrepancy. So one quotation is there: had he settled in India, he would have proved his old man's stick. And now we can realize that there are many aged parents here whose children have left and they are living in America, if they were here, they would have naturally supported there. So this percentage is on the rise, on the increase, and he has tried to bring it out in the. And also, Indian scenes are there because Indian family get-together, marriages, cultural festivities have been very well depicted. And there was no, I quote, there was no limit to the joy of parents, relations, and friends when Jitendra garlanded Kamya. This also captures the festive atmosphere. Indian circumstances are typical in the sense that problems of life in India, economic challenges, and societal expectations have, for example, she demands a scooty, and he says, why do you need a scooty at all? This shows the financial constraints many families face today. So cultural practices such as no daughter-in-law prepares tea, dal, roti for the family. Here is buns and butter serve the purpose. So I think Eastern and Western have been juxtaposed here. Now the social commentary is also there. Impact of globalization and the evolving roles of women have been there. Tanvi's character, for example, character of Tanvi, and her relationship with Jatin over her obligation exemplifies a change in the values of the newer generation. Only patient controlled her at night, and on weekends too, she wanted to be in the arms of Jatin. So this is a conflict between what personal aspirations and the demands of the family and the institution of the family. So family bonds, all such things, are cultural expectations for, after all, I quote one text in this connection, after all, simplicity allied with virtue and beauty is worshipped all over the world. So he says nothing is more beautiful than this. So tradition and modernity, they have also been juxtaposed, and family dynamics are always at play in these novels because Jatin and Tanvi mirror the expectations placed on the spouses to preserve peace and carry out family obligations. Cultural and marital bonds, if we talk about them, the major themes in this novel are value of family and dignity of marriage, both deeply anchored in Indian civilization. And then respect for elders, because they always honor and respect the advice. And one quotation is there, I wish my daughter-in-law could manage the household without ego. This reflects customary notion. So you can see that we give priority to the family considerations. So you can also see on one side there is a feminism, on the other side is there psycholinguistics, and on the just opposite, the author is trying to maintain the Indian value system above all these things. And there is a moral responsibility where the father says, I will take retirement from job, both of us will cultivate our land and produce good crops for people. So this also shows the diligence and community obligation. From the quotations, you can also realize that the language is also typically Indian. It is completely colored and hued with the Indian soil. Duty and sacrifice, family sacrificing for the needs and the obligations toward the family take the upper hand. Neighbors are not ready to speak a word against anybody. This also shows that how they prefer that the family should survive, not get divorced and so on. So even the labors. So this was about 498A in detail. Now quickly, 1 minute each to one novel. Love is Not Time Spool. In Love is Not Time Spool is a debut novel, and in this, rituals and spiritual practices can be seen as a brilliant example of morning routines where it illustrates the privacy of spirituality in Indian society. For example, wearing traditional apparel like chicken kurta and pajama, they also shows that you are culturally grounded. Offering flowers during puja to Lord Krishna, a sacred Rig Vedic chant, and philosophical, they also show the philosophical Indian philosophy and Indian knowledge system. At the same time, with the knowledge of English literature that he displays, they go cheek by jowl in his novels. Philosophy and ethics, for example, he talks about Maya, worldly illusions, as opposed to the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. In the Nimmi Pandit discusses Jain doctrines at Das Lakshmi Parv. Man is equal to God if he feels liberated from all worldly gains and vices. This is what the novelist has written in his And I do my best for widows and orphans and old people. This shows the dedication to the community service. And the collective celebration of holidays like Lakshmi Parva and so on have been very beautifully, discussed in his novel. On thus Lakshmi Parva, Jains come to temple for 10 days, and this is how he goes. I'm just quoting one line each. Would you like to accompany me visiting the Mahalakshmi temple here? Nimi Pandit says when talking about this. So there is always a struggle about the materialism as well as the Indian philosophy of giving up, sacrifice, renunciation, and also about the historical legacies have also been maintained, because when he describes about the visiting the Taj and the Fatehpur Sikri, the tanneries of Agra throw their waste into the pure Yamuna. Guide me so that I may concentrate on my studies after examination start. This is from IS. Now let me go to the IS today. IS today is also, in short, Shrotriya, who is the protagonist. He represents the whole community of such IS aspirants. He attends seminars, and especially he tries to improve his English communication. So modernity and tradition have been very well discussed. From a middle class family in the financial constraints, and the role of education, because it can bring about social transformation, and why he wants to become an IS officer, and all such nationalism, socialism, Indian democracy, harmony, compromise, righteousness, and the right conduct ought to be very strong. So he's trying to uphold the ideals of honesty and integration, as we can say. And when it goes to the IAS Administration Academy, Shastri Academy, all the trainings will be divided into 16 groups, and each group will have an anchor as well as a moderator. This also shows that how the trainings are being trained for inculcation of the Indian value system. So personal aspirations, cultural identity, moral and ethical conduct during the training process of IS officials, civic responsibilities and governance, which have been very well beautifully narrated by the author. Indian cultural past and many problems, even the past is equally being discussed. Unity in diversity, and the ethical framework, it also there. And see how we celebrate Indian values here in IS today. Compassion, service, community values, they are fundamental to Indian society, and therefore these tests help Shrotriya and he takes part in. Shrotriya is from actually low income background. The financial problems of his father make tuition and his school supplies costly. This financial limit forces him to look for scholarships and to use library resources. So financial restrictions, and gradually because of this, the constant struggle with the economic restraints, Shrotriya gains resilience and diligence. These three values have been highlighted. The resilience, how these students achieve because they want to become something. I quote one line from the text. His father grudged giving him money to buy books. This situation also high. He says that first there are so many books in the shelf. First use them, study them, then you are entitled to buy new books. This shows a typical situations. Another quotation. Due to his ignorance, his father told him, you have a lot of books on your shelf. Finish them and then ask me for new books. So he was snubbed whenever he wanted to buy the latest edition of books on GK or essay or writing or general English. So one more quotation from IS today. Without bothering for whims, he did not attend her but through thou she had been. Then also the Indian politics has been discussed. Academic pressures are on the rise, and he is a representative of all student class of India. So how students cope with the Indian academic pressure? Increased fees because he wanted to seek admission in Delhi, and therefore it was difficult for him, and he had to give up his studies at times also. So, and also the competitive spirit that he is inspired by his peers and the collective goal of the community. So as we can see, the problems of the nations as mentioned by some of you will be minutely analyzed and discussed through this group discussion. So the value of group discussions here. There is a rural-urban divide because he belongs to rural background and he confronts typical urban situations. He felt tempted to join Delhi's coaching centers at Mukherjee Nagar, but then gave up the idea. this simple sentence totally explains the family financial restraints which are prevalent in India. His father suggested him to study 18 chapters of Srimad Bhagavad Gita and go through the various episodes of Mahabharata. So, how he copes with the adversity, the IS preparation, and how he contributes to the seminar, and the advantages of attending the seminar, I skip all such information. And then go to the next novel. In this IS today, this is the diagram which speaks volumes about. I quickly go through it as you can see. So Indian identity and aspirations of the protagonist, row 3 have been fully explained here, and the cultural values and the balancing traditional values and modern tradition and modernity, role of education, I have discussed all these points, cultural diversity and unity, and here in this side, challenges that are faced by the protagonist. What challenges in India? So you can see the setting, the circumstances are typically Indian, and the cultural expectation and the pressures from the society all have been narrated, mentioned here, and therefore how we have to cope with the adversity. There are many feeble-minded, weak-minded, vulnerable students who commit suicide after not achieving their goals. So this particular IS today is a brilliant example of this protagonist who, standing against the heavy odds, is able to establish his goals. So in this diagram, representation, it speaks volumes about. Now coming to the media revolution. In the media revolution, this, as you can see, we start from here. I'll finish it in short. In media revolution, again the social dynamics are at play. Personal decisions and the conventional Indian values and the family ties and obligations and Indian identity. What after all is Indian identity? It is shaped by communal social ties. Shivakant is the protagonist who captures Indian communal life in his interaction with his friends, relatives and residents. Sometimes the identity is shaped by great many forces. Even your relatives, your friends, even the residents, they also influence you in shaping your identity, despite the cultural, political, historical constructs. So festivals, social events, they are at the core of the Indian philosophy. Family support, as you see, the family members, they support one another during difficult times. This is the key feature of Indian philosophy. I quote one line from this media revolution: 200 people on Facebook or WhatsApp and hardly 1 or 2 in days of trouble. This exemplifies everything. And the influence of the Bhagavad Gita is very much there in this media revolution. And Shivakant's discussion with Pandit Dikshit, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, all are there. And there is a nationalism, Ujjwala's promotion and Indian products and the Swadeshi movement have been very well discussed. I just